Okay, there we go. Now you should be able to hear me. I'm going to turn the music down just a little bit. So nice. Yeah, that should be fine. So, okay, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm just going to be vibing, just chilling, whilst reading the new rule set, or the new little list of rules that have come out for, well, they're not new, they're beta, then for the One D&D. So just to give you a brief explanation of what that is. So from what I can tell, One D&D is basically, it's the next edition, quote unquote, of D&D that is scheduled to come out in 2024. The idea for One D&D is kind of that it's not a new edition, it's sort of a, I think what they're trying to do is sort of revamp 5th edition, just sort of clean up the edges and the bits that aren't the easiest thing to understand, and just sort of make it easier for everyone. Yeah, the goal is that everything that comes out from here on now should be compatible with 5th edition, or should be backwards compatible for 5th edition, or should be very easy for 5th edition modules to be moved into One D&D. So a lot of the things right now don't seem to be major, huge changes, but some of them are pretty significant. I'm not sure how far in this we'll get through, because I've only got about an hour. Let me have a look. Okay, so but yeah, I've only got about an hour of time I can spare for this right now. I meant to get on earlier, but I kind of got a bit distracted. So anyway, that's One D&D. They're just trying to, from what I can tell, smooth out the edges, make everything just a bit easier for people to run and get into, and just, you know, get their hands into D&D and have a whole fun time. There's some other interesting stuff in there that they put out in the in their information packet they put out yesterday. That's pretty cool. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this Unearthed Arcana character origins. So we have the basic jazz here, what this is. Everything, so Unearthed Arcana articles that present material design for the Player's Handbook coming out in 2024. The material here uses rules in the 2014 Player's Handbook, except when noted. Providing feedback on this document is one way you can help shape the next generation of D&D. Inside you'll find the following content. On that note, if you are interested in getting your hands on this yourself, you can find it at, you can easily find it on the D&D Beyond website or through Unearthed Arcana. You don't need, if you find it through the D&D Beyond website, you don't need to be a subscriber or anything like that. You just need to have an account, and it will get you in there. Accounts are entirely free, but subscribing can get you some bonuses if you are interested in them. Anyway, so what we find in here are character races, the race options being considered for the Player's Handbook, all with updated designs. So that's for the new Player's Handbook, not the current one. Character backgrounds. Here you'll see fun roles that a character's background is going to play in helping flesh out the character origin. The character background stuff, I'll be honest, is the stuff I'm most excited about. Because it has a very slight but significant change on how a character's background actually affects how you make your character and how you play your character. Nowadays, a character's background, at least in my experience, is sort of just flavor. You get a little bit of stuff from it, but more often than not, most people forget they even have that background, and like after 3 or 4 sessions, and are just rolling on whatever, never going back to it. But yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff in there that I'm really excited for. Sorry about that. Anyway, so starting language. This section specifies a number of languages a character knows when created. I kind of skimmed this bit, so I don't really know much about it. I feel it's just pretty much the same as starting languages in general, but slightly tweaked. Feats. Every first level feat mentioned herein appears in the feats section, which contains both new and revised feats. So changes to feats. Also, they've added in what seems to be a feat level system, where you can only gain Sorry, a feat level system is probably the wrong terminology here. A feat level requirement is a better terminology, which means you can only acquire certain feats at a certain level. Some people aren't going to like this, some people are. I'm in the category of I do like this, because I feel that there are certain feats that you should not be able to get at level 1. So, 1 second, I'm just going to grab something. Sorry about this, I'm just going to mute my mic. Well, that didn't work. I was trying to put like a spit guard or whatever they call it on my mic so that you wouldn't hear me so much. But didn't work. I'll have one coming up later, arriving next month. Anyway, back into it. So as I was saying, there are some feats that I just don't think you should be able to get at level 1. Feats, specifically feats like Sniper and Great Weapon Master. I think they're really, really powerful, and they can make certain fights at low levels inconsequential. And having them restricted to, you can only get them at 4th level or 8th level or higher or whatever. Also, having leveled feats gives them the opportunity to just do different things with feats, like create more powerful feats, or create more powerful feats you can only get at later levels. I feel there are a lot of feats right now that are just generic, basic, and crap that only really serve a role-playing feature, which I don't think there's anything wrong with feats that serve a role-playing feature. But if you're giving your ability score increase up to just get what is essentially a roleplay feature, that doesn't feel good. You want to be getting something as equal to getting an ability score increase. Anyway, and then we have the rules glossary, which they just explained their new rules. Cool. So, also, just this reminder, this is playtest material. This article is presented for playtesting and feedback. This D&D material is in draft form, usable in your D&D campaign, but not refined by full game development and editing. It isn't officially part of the game. Feedback. The best way for you to give us feedback on this material is the survey we'll release on D&D Beyond. If we decide to make this material official, it will be refined based on your feedback, and then it will appear in a D&D book. Power level. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than options in the player handbook of the 2014 one. If a design survives playtesting, we adjust its power to the desirable level before official publication. This means options could be more or less powerful in its final form. There is a very specific reason they might put something in particularly weaker or particularly stronger than it would appear in the final edition, and that's simply so that, if people are flocking towards this one ability, going, it's really great, I really love the idea of it, but it's a little too, it's not strong enough for me to pick over something else, then that means they know, all right, they've got the right idea here, but they need to make it slightly better. And just the same for overpowering something. They can go, all right, this is really good, but we've got to bring it back a bit somehow. And it's in some ways it's easier to change something that is like really scaled one way or the other into something that's more middle ground than something that already starts in the middle ground. Anyway, 1 second. I put my phone away. I really shouldn't have done that. Nah, I won't go and grab it. Anyway, determining your origin. After choosing your character class, it's time to consider the character's origin. You are a character. Who are the character's ancestors, and how did the character spend the years leading up to a life of adventure? To help answer those questions, you choose 3 things for the character: a race, a background, and a language. So this is all assuming that classes have already been chosen. You chose your class before you chose your race, which some people do, other people don't. That's, everyone's their own way. I personally like to, I do it both ways. Sometimes I'll be like, yes, I really want to be an orc, or I really want to be a monk. I was going to say paladin. I'm always a paladin. So a character's race represents ancestry and confers game traits to the character. A character's background is a collection of characteristics that represent the place and occupation that were most formative for the characters. The character's origin overview table lists the traits a character gains from a race and background. So a race traits, you get your creature type. Every character monster in the game has a creature type. Most are considered humanoid. There's probably a few exceptions. A character's size determines the amount of space the character occupies, as explained in the 2014 handbook. Speed fuels a character's movement, as explained in the 2014 handbook. Lifespan. The lifespan is an average for a member of the race, assuming the danger of adventure don't shorten that span. Special traits. Each race provides special traits, a collection of abilities that characters gain from their ancestors. Background. So that's everything that a race gives you. Everything a race gives you is character size, creature type, size, speed, lifespan, and some special abilities. So background traits. This is where the slight but significant difference comes into background traits. So, background traits give you an ability score bonus. A background grants you +2 bonus to one ability score and a +1 bonus to a different ability score. This is a significant change because they're taking the ability score increase that races give you and moving it over to backgrounds. That makes a big difference and really pushes forward that backgrounds are important and that you shouldn't just forget about them. Skill proficiencies, you get 2 skill proficiencies from a background. That's how it's always been. I mean, there are a few exceptions that give you more, but they're rarities. Each background gives tool proficiencies with 1 tool. That is also new. There are quite a few backgrounds that give tool proficiencies currently, but not all of them. A lot of them don't. I think it's probably more like 2/3 don't, 1/3 does. I could be wrong there. I haven't read them all. Languages. A character learns 1 language from a background. That's pretty normal. Some give you that's pretty standard for how it is now. Some give you more. Some give you more than 1. But most give you at least 1. Feats. This is also another big significant change. So each background provides a first level feat, a special ability acquired in the character's past. So now with these rule changes, it was only the variant human that would get a feat. With these rule changes, only the variant human would get a feat at level 1. With these rule changes, everyone gets a feat at level 1, and I think that's great. I really do. The only change I would make to this blurb is I would go, each background provides a first level feat. I would put a note somewhere that basically says that you can choose any first level feat, not just the suggested one. I would just make that clear as day. Because while, the suggested ones, they do make sense, sometimes you want sometimes you want a different spice. Equipment. A background provides a portion of a character's starting equipment, with the rest coming from class. That's pretty normal stock standard stuff. Race and background together help bring your character's backstory into focus and then distinguish the character from other members of the same class. For example, two characters might both be members of the fighter class, but one is a human guard and the other is a dwarf gladiator. The two bring different capabilities and flavor to the class. After choosing a race and background, you choose a language that your character knows in addition to the common tongue and whatever language you gain from the background you choose. The combination of race, background, and languages provide fertile soil for your imagination as you ponder your character's earliest days and imagine a character's family, occupation, hometown, and more. Yep, that all makes sense. That's all good stuff. So, you get a language from your race, you get a language from your background, and common. So, character races. When you choose your character race, you determine your character is a member of the human race or of a fantastical race. This document provides description and rules for the following race options: humans, oddlings, dragonborn, dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling, orc, and tiefling. You may notice that oddlings is a completely new one. I don't think that existed before. It might have existed in a past edition. I'm not sure about that, but I've never heard of it. So, to me, it's completely new, but I don't have experience with every edition of D&D. But what you may have also noticed is that there are no half-elves or half-orcs. As you can see here, down here with the children of different humanoid kinds, we'll get into that. The description of each race includes a section of game traits which your character gains if you select that race. NPCs of the same ancestry don't necessarily have the same traits. As explained in the monster manual, the traits here pertain to player characters. Basically, that's just saying that a dwarf that is a NPC may not have the same stats as, probably won't have the same abilities and stats as a dwarf that is a player character. That's normal, that's fine. Okay. So thanks to the magical workings of the multiverse, humanoids of different kinds sometimes have children together. For example, folk who have a human parent and an orc or elf parent are particularly common. Many other combinations are possible. If you'd like to play the child of such a wondrous pairing, choose two race options that are humanoid to represent your parents, then determine which of those race options provide your game traits: size, speed, special traits. You can then mix and match visuals. So if I wanted to, so you pick the stuff from each one that you'd like to have. But if you were a half human, half gnome, for example, and you chose the gnome's size, me as a DM, I would probably force you to take the gnome's speed. Because the whole idea between the gnome's speed or the dwarf's speed or the halfling speed or whatever the short creature's speed is that it's 5 less than the tallest races because they're smaller and their legs are smaller. Anyway, you can then mix and match visual characteristics, color, ear shape, and the like with the two options. For example, if your character has a halfling and a gnome parent, you might choose halfling for your game traits and then decide that your character has the pointed ears that are the characteristic of a gnome. Finally, determining the average of the two options' lifespan traits to figure out how long your character might live. For example, a child of a halfling and a gnome has an average lifespan of 288 years. Right. Anyway, so let's get into the very basics. Humans. They are found throughout the multiverse. Humans are as varied as they are numerous. They are relatively short-lived, but they strive to achieve as much as they can in the years they are given. They are skilled pioneers and artisans. They are builders of nations, roads, cities, and ships. They strive to secure their place in the world and in the annals of history by creating art, amassing wealth, making law, and questing for immortality. Their ambition and resourcefulness are commendable, respected, and feared. Humans are as diverse in appearance as the people of Earth. They have many gods. Scholars dispute the origin of humanity, but one of the earliest known human gatherings is said to have occurred in Sigil, the Taurus-shaped city at the center of the multiverse, and the place where the common tongue was born. From there, humans could have spread to every corner of the multiverse, bringing Sigil's cosmopolitanism with them. Cosmopolitanism with them. I believe, I haven't actually looked at it, but I believe Sigil is like the main city from the new book they put out, the Radiant Citadel. I'm not 100% sure on that. I could be talking out of my ass and just taking a guess. Or this, could have been something they made up for this. Anyway. Human traits. So humans come in two sizes. They are small or medium. So a medium stands from 4 to 7 feet. So that's your real life humans. Depending on where they are in the world, most people fit somewhere between that 4 and 7 feet. Of course, there are some exceptions that go below or above it. Or small, 2 to 4 feet. So there are your midgets. No offense to any. So I do like this change that your size isn't restricted to, every medium creature isn't restricted to, 5 to 6 feet or whatever. Some are, there are exceptions. Some are small, smaller, and some are larger, and they're still humans. So speed of 30 feet and lifespan of 80 years. That's the same old, same old. So as a human, you have these special traits. They don't have languages here. Oh, well, whatever. We'll get to it later. You gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. So inspiration, it still works exactly the same as it does now. They're just trying to push it forward and give it to people more often. So inspiration is whenever you roll a attack, skill check, or saving throw, you can use your inspiration to give yourself advantage, or whenever an opponent rolls a dice, you can use your inspiration to give them disadvantage. Skillful, you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Yep, that's pretty good. And versatile, you gain the skill. You gain the skilled feat of another. You gained the skilled feat or another first level feat of your choice. So yeah, not every not every race has this or another first level feat of your choice. I would change that. So actually, I don't think. Let me just skim down to Ardling. Okay, so yes, okay. So not every race gets a feat. Humans still get a feat, and then their background will also give them another feat. Okay, I still think every background should have or another first level feat of your choice. I personally do. But, whatever. I really like this. I really like the idea that they're trying to bring inspiration more to the forefront and sort of hand it out more often, because a lot of DMs and players forget about its existence. And just giving it to all humans, one of the most commonly played races in my experience, and with the fact that they still will start off with 2 feats instead of 1, will still be pretty played. It's good. It's good. I really like it. And you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice, plus the 2 that you get from your background, and probably still the 2 or 3 that you'll get from your class, which means humans will probably start out with 5 or 6 skill proficiencies. That's pretty solid. It's pretty good. Humans are still pretty darn good. On any given world in the multiverse, the material culture of humans can change from one region to another. In the Forgotten Realms, for example, the clothing, architecture, and cuisine, music, and literature are widely different in the Western Heartlands than in the frozen north of Icewind Dale. As humans migrate, they bring elements of their culture with them, giving rise to diverse settlements and contain people with different physical characteristics, not to mention a medley of clothing styles, customs, and beliefs. Okay. So humans they're still pretty much humans. I mean, there are some slight changes there. There's no longer a basic human and a versatile human. They just now have this versatile feature, which gives them an additional skill, which, I mean, was kind of the whole point. An additional feat, which was kind of the whole point of choosing the versatile human. But now, everyone will get a feat based off their background. Anyway, Ardlings the new creature, are supernatural beings who are either born of the upper planes or have one or more ancestors who originated there. Their bright soul shines with the light of immortal beings who call the upper planes home. Adlings, heyo, how you doing? Just talking some D&D since some new rules came out the other day. So, an Adling has a head that resembles an animal, typically one with virtual association. Depending on the animal, the Adling might also have soft fur, downy feathers, or supple bare skin. The Adling's celestial legacy determines the animal it resembles. An Adling gains a measure of magical power from the celestial legacy, as well as the ability to manifest spectral wings. An Adling's morals and ethical outlook is self-determined, however, not fixed by ancestry. I don't know crap about the Adlings. I don't know if they've existed in past editions or it's something new. This is literally the first time I've heard of them. Anywho, so they come in three legacies as Exalted, the fierce passions of Arborea, and the heroic hearts of Isgard, and the wondrous nature of the Beastlands, called to Adlings who have exalted celestial legacies. Their celestial ancestors are heroic champions of the chaotic good planes. That's basically what my friends have also said. They basically said, why didn't they just push ASMR further? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I guess they wanted something with more the similar versatility that tieflings have with the Nine Hells. I mean, that's my only guess. A complete shot in the dark. I don't know. Anyway, Heavenly, the blissful harmonies of Arcadia, the unwavering justice of Mount Celestia, and the bucolic paradise of Bitopia touch the souls of Adlings who have the heavenly celestial legacy. The celestial ancestors are staunch defenders of the lawful good planes. Okay, so they are completely new. I thought they were, but I wasn't sure. And then the idyllic celestial legacy connects Adlings not only to the Beastlands and Bitopia, but also the eternal compassion of Elysium. The celestial ancestors are paragons of kindness who hail from neutral good planes. So, just like humans, they are 4 to 7 feet tall or 3 to 4 feet tall. They have a 30-foot movement speed and a 200-year lifespan, assuming they aren't killed. As an Adling, you have these special traits. Angelic Flight. As a bonus action, you sprout spectral rings for a moment and fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. If you are in the air, you end this movement. At the end of this movement, you fall if nothing is holding you aloft. That's your standard stuff for any sort of flight that only lasts for a single round. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So that's pretty much... it's like a weaker version of the Crystal Dragonborn's wings that they get, which makes sense, because Crystal Dragonborn don't get their wings until level 5. So some suggested animals that you might have features towards if you are an Exalted would be a cat, eagle, goat, or mule. You'd also at level 1 get the Thaumaturgy spell, at level 3 get the Divine Favor, and at level 5 Lesser Restoration. That's not that bad, getting Lesser Restoration at level 5. I mean, a lot of casters will already have it, but just being able to, cast it if you're not a caster could be helpful. I mean, Lesser Restoration doesn't do a lot, but it's still useful. It has its uses. Anyway. Heavenly, it suggested elephant, owl, pig, and stork. I'm not sure what features I would want from a pig. Maybe a curly tail. Who knows? Or the ability to make it so that people can never grab me. At first level, you'd get Light, Third, Cure Wounds, and 5th Zone of Truth. That Cure Wounds could be very clutch, and Zone of Truth is just one of my personal favorite role-playing spells. Guidance is just great for, if you're in a party that... I'm sorry, Light is just great if you're in a party that doesn't have a lot of dark vision users. And then the Idyllic for bear, dog, ravens, or toads, and you get Guidance, Healing Word, and Animal Messenger. Guidance and Healing Word are just two top-notch spells. Guidance for out of combat if you just want to give your people a buff. I suppose. I could give myself Tusks. Healing Word is a great spell if you just need to get people up. You know, someone goes down and you're in a really tough fight and you just need to get someone back up and you can't get close enough. Healing Word is a very clutch spell, and even if you're only able to cast it once a day, that could be the difference between a TPK and winning a battle. Animal Messenger, it's a good role-playing spell. I don't think I've used it myself, but, you know, I'm sure there are people out there who have. Celestial Legacies, which are the stuff I just read up there. You are the recipient of Celestial Legacies that grant you magical abilities. Choose a legacy from the Celestial Legacies table. Yep. Okay. So, you don't gain wings by choosing an animal that can fly. Oh, but storks. I want to deliver people's babies. That is very out of context. God damn. Okay. So cool. Starting at 3rd level and again at 5th level, you gain the ability to cast high-level spells with this trait as shown on the table. Once you cast a spell with this trait, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. However, you can cast the spell using any spell slot you have of the appropriate level. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for the spells you cast with this trait. Choose the ability when you select the legacy. Okay. So that's decent. You can so if you're not a spellcaster, you can only cast them once a day, but if you are a spellcaster that doesn't get access to those spells, you can still cast them multiple times a day. So for example, if you were a wizard who was idyllic or heavenly, which I know for a fact wizards do not get Healing Word or Cure Wounds, that could be very, very useful to be able to have those on hand. Anyway, and damage resistant, you have resistance to Radiant. Yeah, I mean, if it comes up, it comes up, but Radiant isn't one of the damage types that really does come up a lot, so, you know, it's a nice little bit of flavor. Overall, I think I'd like Ardlings, but I don't think I'd play one. I don't think they're for me. Although, okay, no, that's a lie. I think I would play, I would consider playing a Paladin Ardling. I would probably go Heavenly and probably end up doing something with Elephant because I think that would be pretty funny. I know I could just be a Loxodon if that's what I really wanted, but Loxodon can't fly, even if it's only for like 6 seconds. Ardlings bring a little bit of the upper planes with them wherever they go. On many worlds, the first Ardling used the magic of their celestial legacies to inspire and heal others. By virtue of the celestial legacies, some Ardlings strive to make the world a better place. Others use their supernatural gifts to be the best versions of themselves they can be. Still, others are delighted to have a connection to the upper planes without the responsibility of always having to do the right thing. So, yeah, there's some cool there. I'm sure there's someone who would like to play that. Like I said, I don't think it would be my first choice, but I could probably think of something to do that. I see everything when I see an elephant fly. Alright, Dragonborns. So, Dragonborns have always been a special favorite of mine since I first got into D&D. I just love him. Dumbo the Paladin. Okay, alright, yep. Yeah, no. I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to... God, oh my god, it has been so long since I've watched Dumbo. Alright. That's something I'm gonna have to do. Just when I activate my wings feature, my ears grow to massive size. But anyway, so as I was saying, Dragonborn have always been a personal favorite of mine. I've loved them since I knew about them, but you know, I've just always loved dragons, so that's not unexpected of me. Anyway. The earliest Dragonborn hatched from the eggs of chromatic and metallic dragons. One story holds that these eggs were blessed by the dragon gods Bahamut and Tiamat, who wanted to populate the worlds of dragons with people created in their image. Another story holds that dragons created the first Dragonborn without the gods' blessings. Whatever their origins, Dragonborn have made homes for themselves in the worlds of the material planes. Dragonborn look like wingless bipedal dragons, scaly, bright-eyed, and thick-boned with horns on their head. Dragonborns of chromatic ancestry have scales that are black, blue, green, red, or white, whereas Dragonborn of metallic ancestry have scales that are the colors of brass, bronze, copper, gold, or silver. When two Dragonborns whose scales are of different colors produce a child, their offspring scales match those of one parent or the other. Like their draconic ancestry, Dragonborn can exhale acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. One can tell the type of energy a Dragonborn breeds by the color of the Dragonborn scales. So that's pretty much the same backstory and information that they've always given for Dragonborn. Sometimes they go a bit more into the creation mythos of dragons. But anyway, that's the usual stuff. So, Dragonborn are humanoids. They can only be between roughly speaking 5 and 7 feet. I want to play a 4-foot Dragonborn. I think that would be very funny. Same movement speed and lifespan of the humans. However, this has always been a pet peeve of mine. I think Dragonborn should have a longer lifespan than humans. I don't know, somewhere between humans and dwarves, I think. But that's just a me thing. I think, well, actually, it's also something that one of my friends does. But anyway, I think Dragonborns are innately magical creatures, and I think they should live longer than a human does. But anyway. As a Dragonborn, you have the special traits of draconic ancestry. Your lineage stems from a dragon progenitor. Choose the type of dragon from the draconic ancestry table. Your choice affects your breath weapon, damage resistance traits. The chosen dragon also affects your appearance, with you displaying coloration and other features reminiscent of that dragon. So we have the standard 5 chromatic and metallics. We don't have the Gem Dragonborn in here, but it would be pretty easy to swap the Gem Dragonborn from Fizzbands into this rule set, if you wanted to for some reason. Personally, I think the Gem Dragonborn from Fizzbands are pretty top-notch as they are, and they don't need changing. Actually, I think all the Dragonborn changes that Fizzband added are good. But anyway, so black, blue, brass, bronze, copper give acid, lightning, fire, lightning, acid, and gold, green, red, silver, white give fire, poison, fire, gold, gold. Alright, so the way that breath weapons work is, as an action you exhale destructive energy in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a dex saving throw against a DC equal to 8 plus con mod plus proficiency bonus. On a failed save, the creature takes 1d10 plus your character level in damage of the type, determined by your draconic ancestry trait. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage. You can use this breath weapon a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, changes that have been made here is changes from the player's handbook that have been made here is that instead of the 2d6 that it is in the player's handbook, it is now 1d10, and it is now plus your character level instead of, I don't think it's plus anything in the original. Just let me have a look at my player's handbook. Damage is 2d6 plus your... Nope, there's 2d6, yeah. So the official, the player's handbook version is just 2d6, and as you level up, it periodically upgrades to 3d6 to 4d6 to 5d6. So the damage here is, instead of increasing the damage die, it always it is increased by your character's level, which will mean that as you level up and hit with it, you will always deal at least no matter what you roll. So even if you roll a 1, you will always deal damage equal to at least 1 more point than your character level, which, I'll be honest, isn't all that effective. But it means at level 10, your Dragon Breath could at most deal 10 damage. Could at most deal 20 damage, sorry, and at least do 11 damage. I mean, it is guaranteed damage, which is good, as opposed to potential damage. But I personally prefer the increased die roll as opposed to this. The difference to the Fizzband Dragonborns is all breath weapons deal a 15-foot cone instead of a 15-foot cone or a 15-foot line, I believe it is. Some of I think the metallics did cone in Fizzbands, and the chromatic steel line in Fizzbands. Fizzbands also has you dealing 1d10, but it's just 1d10 flat, and like the player's handbook, it increases to 2d10, and then 3d10, and then 4d10. So again, I prefer that style as opposed to this, because rolling 4d10 could give you a potential 40 damage, or rolling 5d6 could give you a potential 30 damage. Anyway, that's my opinion on that. Damage resistance, you have resistance to the damage type determined by your draconic ancestry. That's the same as it always has been. Dark vision. Dragonborns now have dark vision with a range of 30 feet. I'm kind of on the fence about that. I like dark vision. I think it's a great feature, but I also feel that if every single race has it, what's the point of non-magical darkness? Anyway. And Draconic language, you instinctively know the language of dragons. You can therefore speak, read, and write Draconic. So that, except for the dark vision, it's very similar to the player's handbook Dragonborn. The breath weapon is a pretty different change from the player's handbook, but the rest of it is pretty stock standard. Like dragons, Dragonborn have a mystical bond to the material plane and are spread across its many worlds. On some worlds, the earliest Dragonborn settlements were built near dragon lairs so that the Dragonborns could pay tribute to their draconic progenitors. Many of these ancient settlements still exist, for example, the dragon-ruled continent of Argonessen on the world of Eberron. Interesting. Has Dragonborn cities tucked among its mountainous range. On other worlds, Dragonborn ply their skills in settlements populated mostly by non-Dragonborn, fulfilling an urge to expand their presence and influence, much as dragons do. Alright, dwarves. Resilient like mountains, dwarves were raised up from the earth in the elder days by a deity of the forge, called by various names on different worlds, Moradin, Riox, and others. That god gave dwarves an affinity for stone and metal, and for living underground. Squat and often bearded, the original dwarves carved cities and strongholds into mountainsides and under the earth. Their oldest legends tell of conflicts with the monsters of mountaintops and the Underdark. Whether those monsters were towering giants or subterranean horrors, inspired by those tales, dwarves of any culture often sing of valorous deeds, especially of the little overcoming the mighty. Standard dwarf stuff. Dwarf traits. You are humanoid. You range from about 4 to 5 feet tall. You have a speed of 30 feet and a lifespan of 350 years. So dwarves now have the same speed as a human. I suppose, considering they're giving humans the ability to be between 2 and 4 feet and still have a speed of 30 feet, then sure. The lifespan is pretty much the same as it always has been. In some editions, it increases by about 50 to 100, and I think in some others it decreases by the same amount. But it usually sticks around that 300 to 400 mark. So dwarves have dark vision up to 60 feet. That's the same as normal. Your dwarven resilience, you have resistance to poison damage. You also have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poison condition on yourself. Your hit point dwarven toughness, your hit point maximum increases by 1, and it increases by 1 again whenever you gain a level. Forge wise, your divine creator gave you an uncanny affinity for working with stone or metal. You gain 2 proficiencies with 2 of the following options of your choice: jeweler's tools, mason tools, smith tools, or tinker tools. Stone cunning, as a bonus action, you gain tremor sense with a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. You must be on a stone surface or touching such a surface to use tremor sense. The stone can be natural or worked. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses on a long rest. So, the changes here that they've made is, instead of basically having hill dwarves and mountain dwarves, they're the same. We don't have Dwaga here, or dark dwarves, which is a bit of a shame, because whilst I find hill dwarves and mountain dwarves very similar and more of just an aesthetic change, Dwaga or Duergar or dark dwarves, whatever you want to call them, are significantly different from their hill and mountain brethren, and I definitely think those should get a separate subclass. But beyond that, for just your stock standard dwarf, I like these changes, I do. But as a dwarf, you don't innately understand the dwarvish language. I think that's a slip-up. Anyway, on some worlds in the multiverse, the first dwarven settlements were built in hills or mountains, and the dwarf families who trace their ancestry to those settlements called themselves hill dwarfs or mountain dwarves, respectively. Owerth and Kryn, the world of the Greyhawk and Dragonlance setting, respectively, are examples of worlds that have such dwarven communities. In other worlds, dwarves have given themselves other cultural designations. For example, on the continent of Faerun in the Forgotten Realms, the dwarves of the south call themselves gold dwarves, and the dwarves from the north, shield dwarves. But they are basically just, hill or mountain dwarves. Well, the Dragonborn do. Elves don't seem to. Gnomes get a language. No, that's lineage. I can't read. Well, that's a lot. Gnomes don't seem to. Halflings don't seem to. Orcs don't seem to, and I think tieflings. It doesn't seem tieflings do either. It seems like the only ones that do are the dragons, which I think is an oversight. I personally think that is an oversight, and one that they will get fixed. I think, elves should know elvish, dwarves, dwarvish, etc., etc. They have moved it to backgrounds where, like, every background also gives you a language. Let's just scroll down to the backgrounds. Here we go. Like, Artisan. So Artisan gives you Gnomish. Or this one up here. Nope. Or Criminal gives you Thieves' Cant. I would like to say we'll get to that when we get there, but I don't think we will. I think we'll only have enough time to go through the elves. That's true. I can't deny that that is a valid argument. and that could have been the decision they came up with when they decided not to give innate languages to races. It's a fair argument that I can't really disagree with. I've certainly made some classes myself. I mean, some characters myself that were one race and lived the majority or all of their life around people that were not their race. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Elves, created by the god Corellian. The first elves could change their physical forms at will. The elves lost this ability when Corellon exiled them from Arvandor for plotting with another elven deity named Lolth, who tried and failed to usurp Corellon's dominion. When Lolth was cast down into the abyss, most elves renounced her treachery and earned Corellon's forgiveness. But that which Corellon had taken from the elves was lost forever. No longer able to shapeshift at will, the elves retreated to the Feywild, where their sorrows was deepened by that plane's influence. Over time, wanderlust and curiosity led many of them to explore other planes of existence, including various worlds in the material plane. Elves have the mystical ability to take on characteristics of the environment with which they are bonded, drow to the Underdark, high elves to the Fey crossings in the material plane, and wood elves to the forests. Their connections These connections grant elves access to certain kinds of magics. Elves are blessed with long lives and long memories. From birth, they don't sleep, but instead enter a trance where they need to rest. In this state, elves remain aware of their surroundings while immersing themselves in their own memories. What an elf remembers during this reprieve depends largely on how long the elf has lived and the events that have shaped the elf's existence. Elves have pointed ears and tend to be light on their feet. Another common physical characteristic of elves is their lack of facial and body hair. That is true. You are also right there that, yeah, if everything got a language and you did like a half-orc dwarf, for example, you could probably get a few language types. Personally, in my experience, language doesn't come up in a lot of campaigns, like to be an important deciding factor in things. That being said, in one of the campaigns I have been running recently, language, like being able to speak Draconic or Primordial, has had significant uses. Anyway, elves are humanoid, size 5 to 6 feet tall, 30 feet, and live to about 750 years. So that's your standard elvish stuff there. As an elf, you have dark vision up to 60 feet. You are part of an elven lineage that grants you supernatural abilities. Choose a lineage from the elven lineage table. Drow, the lineage of the Underdark. High elf, the lineage of the Fey Crossing and other magical locations. Or wood elf, the lineage of the primeval forest. Excuse me. You gain the first level benefit of that lineage. Starting at 3rd level, and again at 5th level, you also gain the ability to cast a spell with this trait. Once you cast a spell with this trait, you can't cast that spell again until you finish a long rest. However, you can cast a spell using any spell slot you have of the appropriate level. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for the spell you cast with this trait. Choose the ability when you select the lineage. So that seems to be the new modus operandi for when they give races the ability to cast spells, that you choose which stat that spell is related to instead of being stuck to Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. Which, I mean, it's useful. I can definitely see the use and appeal to this sort of way. Like, for example, if you're a sorcerer tiefling if you're a sorcerer elf, being forced to cast spells with your intelligence stats from your base class your base race instead of every other spell you have being from your charisma could get frustrating, especially if you have a very poor intelligence. Fey Ancestry, you have the advantage on the saving throws you make to avoid or end the charm condition on yourself. That's still stock standard. You have proficiency with the Perception skill. I believe that is also stock standard for elves as they currently are. You don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. You can finish a long rest in 4 hours if you spend those hours in trance-like meditation, during which you retain consciousness, and that's stock standard. So, what do the elves get for their elven lineage? So Drow, they get the range of their dark vision increases through 120 feet. You also know the Dancing Light cantrip. At 3rd level, you get Fairy Fire, and at 5th level, you get Darkness. I'm pretty sure that's basically how Drow currently work. The only real significant change they have taken away from Drow is sunlight sensitivity, which I am all for. I usually when I'm a DM, if the campaign doesn't heavily revolve around being underground or outside basic sunlight, I generally ignore sunlight sensitivity, because I feel giving my players a disadvantage, giving a single member of my table disadvantage on every single thing they do when they're out in the sun, where the majority of action happens, is not fun. So that's a me thing. But when my campaign revolves heavily around like being underground or a world where the sun doesn't breach the clouds, like if the campaign was in the Underdark or the Curse of Strahd, for example, I would probably actually use sunlight sensitivity specifically for those rare events where where the sun does show itself, or they have to go above ground for some reason, or someone casts a sunlight spell. Anyway, High Elves, you have the Prestidigitation cantrip. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace the cantrip with a different cantrip from the Arcane spell list. At 3rd level, you get Detect Magic, and at 5th level, you get Misty Step. I'm pretty sure that's very different from what the High Elves currently get. I can't remember what they currently get, but I'm pretty sure that's very different. This also is just slightly segues into another change I'm all for. Spells, instead of being split up between classes, they are now split up between 3 lists. Right now we only have 1st level cantrips and 1st level spells, but I expect that will expand further as time goes on. We have the Arcane spell list, which is for which wizards, sorcerers, warlocks as well, I believe, and bards can choose spells from the Arcane spell list. You have the Divine spell list, which is for clerics and paladins, and the Primeval, which is for druids and rangers. Arcane is also for artificers. That was the one I forgot. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Wood Elves, your speed increases to 35 feet. You also know the Druidcraft cantrip, and at 3rd level you get Longstrider, and at 5th level, Pass Without a Trace. I like all of those changes. I really do. I think the elves... I don't think the elves got particularly weaker or stronger, but I do like the changes they've made. After leaving the Feywild, elves established deep roots on worlds throughout the multiverse. Within their respective domains, elves often use their magic and other resources to build fabulous enclaves. The subterranean cities and outposts of the Drow, the gleaming towers and citadels of the High Elves, and the forest sanctuaries of the Wood Elves are nothing short of architectural wonders, which reflect the builders' otherworldly origins. Drow, known for their white hair and dusky grey skin tones, Drow typically dwell in the Underdark. Noteworthy exceptions include Trist Do'Urden and Jalaxel Baenri, 2 Drow adventurers of the Forgotten Realms who shun their subterranean homeland. Some Drow societies avoid the Underdark altogether. On the world of Eberron, for example, Drow dwell in gloomy rainforests and cyclopean ruins on the continent of Zendrick. I think in current story and lore, Jalaxel has been forced back into the Underdark as his family is calling him back. I don't know, I've read like one of the Drizzt books in the last 5 or 6 years, so I'm kind of out of date on that lore. Anyway, High Elves. On some world, High Elves refer to themselves as other names. For example, the Sun Elves and Moon Elves of Toril, the world of the Forgotten Realms setting, are High Elves, as are the Silver Nesti and Quillanesti of Krynn, the world of Dragonlance, and the Areni of Eberron. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to call it here after I finish reading out the Wood Elves, because I've got to run so I can get to where I'm playing my D&D, where I'm running my D&D session tonight, and still have time to get myself something to eat. Wood Elves are known across the multiverse by many other names, including Wild Elves, Green Elves, Forest Elves, Grugach, reclusive Wood Elves on Oerth, the world of the Greyhawk setting, while the Kagonesti and the Ternadel are Wood Elves of Krynn and Eberron, respectively. Right, so unfortunately, I'll have to call this here. I got a bit distracted, so I wasn't able to start this off about an hour earlier than I planned to. But I will probably get back into this and go over everything that I missed out tomorrow. Not sure when, though. Probably around the same time, actually. Probably around the same time. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Ciao for now.